Okay, so let's get started with a tutorial, basic tutorial for Revit. Now that I have some time, hope everyone's safe with this virus, but I'm going to take the time right now. So this could be used for training purposes or for friends, family, and coworkers. We need to improve their skills on Revit during these times. So let's start with the tools that we have here. The interface is very different from AutoCAD, those of you that use AutoCAD, but not that different. You have a point where all the axes is cross X, Y, Z, and then you kind of work in a similar way as you would in AutoCAD, but it's just a little bit different, and you kind of think of it as a blank sheet of white paper. Um, what you have here at the top are your basic tools, pretty self-explanatory. Wall, door, windows. Component is kind of like blocks, information that you insert, columns, the roof, and then there's pull downs, so different types of roof or elements of a roof, ceiling roof, curtain wall system, and then you have railings, ramps, stairs, and model text is a 3D text model line. This is a 3D line that you can see in perspectives as opposed to an annotative line that you only see in a 2D drawing, and it's only as per view. And then you have other tools such as the room information that's all data driven, and then you have your openings through surfaces like an opening on the roof, for example, if you're creating um, mansard windows, or sorry, mansards, or cutting holes in the roofs for different elements. If you're cutting through floor slabs, if you're cutting a hole in the wall, if you're just cutting a vertical, say if you want to do a stair shaft, something like that. If you want to do a dormer, your grids, your reference, your work planes, we'll get into that, and then your reference planes. Reference planes are very useful, but it can be um, an overburden sometimes. So let's start here with the wall. Um, this here is your properties menu. It tells you you're basically building, think of this as a scale model in a way, where you have your different wall types that you need. Starting a project, like don't get into the detail as to what the type is in the construction unless you know specifically what you're doing. But I usually start with a generic 8-inch wall. 200 millimeters is in the metric conversion, and then you have your levels. This is your base constraint. It says where the wall starts, and this is your top constraint. It says where the wall stops. Right now, the default is unconnected, and it says 20 feet. So if you have set up, we'll get into setting up the levels, but here you want the wall to go from level 1 to level 2. As you can see, the dimension change here to 10 feet. And then you have other information that you're not going to get into it just yet. And you hit apply, and then you can start drawing. And there you have 4 walls that are 8 inches, and they're all connected. So as you can see, the detail is pretty simple. It's just 2 lines. Now you can get, say, if you were to select that wall and you make this a brick on CMU, you still see 2 lines, but the wall thickness grew. If you change the detail level of the view, instead of to fine, you're gonna be able to see some of the additional information. But let's change the scale to length. And as you can see, we're on the side plan, so some of that information doesn't show. So let's go back to level 1. We'll change this to fine. So now you can see that you can see all that detail. Now, because of AutoCAD, a lot of things over the years have been forgotten, because with AutoCAD you could zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, and people started drawing, fasteners, and it caused a lot of problems in terms of construction, because then contractors send RFIs is like, is this how you want to build? And you show a fastener here. So rely a lot on your specs and rely a lot on your wall types and information that you use. So try not to think of it as as like manual drafting, going back to manual drafting. So I personally prefer to go into the visibility graphics that I'll get into in more detail later. But you can set your view to fine, but then you can set individual elements such as walls and change it to say medium or coarse, so it shows less detail. And then you're back to just having just 2 lines, but it's thick. And then you can like then manage the information by under your annotation, and then you're like tagging the wall type. So let's say we call this exterior wall. Let's call this W1, and we call this a W2 as an example. So now that this typology of wall is a W2, this is a W1. Now whenever you tag any of them, it will recognize it automatically. So if I were to say match the properties, which you can do with this tool, you can say I want this wall to be like that wall, and automatically the tagging change. I'll show it to you in 3D. As you can see, the wall is reversed. We'll put the brick on the outside. Just by hitting spacebar, you can flip the walls back and forth. And then there's your first basic element. So now let's go back to our ground floor. Now you can start, pulling. You can grab them both, and there's a dot, and then you can change the angles. You can do all kinds of things. You can add new walls. You right click and then you create similar. And then if you press TR or trim, that's a trim tool. You can trim them. You can change how they intersect, or the wall joints tool. And you can select it, and you can say miter, or you can say butt. In this case, we'll butt it like that. In this case, we'll miter it. In this case, we'll go miter. So what this does is that it extends also the material to the corner. So if you're when you get into the rendering situation or clean out, sometimes it doesn't clean out properly, and that's the easiest way to do it. And then you can start inserting, I'm just going to put some standard stuff like some doors, and then you can go in and insert your windows, and, kind of pretty straightforward. And you can change all this stuff, but it just gets you the idea if you're trying to work on a really quick plan of what you can do. So going back to the wall properties, you can say we take this wall, and if you go to the type, you can say here under structure, you can see all the definitions of all the layers that you saw. And you can adjust, say you can change the gypsum for say a 1/2 inch, and it will let's change that for 1/2 inch, and then it will automatically update all the wall types. You can also get to the finer detail of things. You can add a section, building section, or wall section. Let's add a wall section here. Change this to a 1/4 inch scale just so it's easier. You can cycle through the bubbles if you want the bubble on the other side, or if you want no bubbles, and then you click on it, and then you can go to the fine detail, and then you have all your layers. Here you can see in this section, you can see that those are the levels. You can change this if you want to have it at 12 feet. The walls, because we set wall from level to level, it automatically updates. So that's basically the gist of walls. in Revit. Um, Hope you enjoy.